The investment in the destruction of the black mind. Black Americans have always been subjected to mind control. Black people have always had an agenda given to them for how they should use their minds. It's no accident that when African slaves arrived to the New World at the bottom of slave ships, they were immediately given names handed to them by their slave masters. They were immediately put on a program to divest them of any African identity. The number one job when that African arrived in America was to get him to divorce himself from his own sense of identity and culture. Therefore, he was stripped of his language and his customs, his name and his history. This is very, very important to understand what's been going on for the last 500 years with African people. The enslaved African brought to the Americas would have children, and their children would have no knowledge of what it was like to live in Africa, what the customs were, and they certainly wouldn't have any knowledge of the language that they could feel free or comfortable practicing, even if they got it directly from their parents. So there's always been an interest in controlling the black mind. And the reason for that is that if you can control a mind, you can get people to basically serve your interests. This is very important to understand. There's always been an interest in controlling the black mind. Right after slavery, that interest in the black mind never ended, in controlling the black mind never ended. The interest in controlling the minds of African people did not end with the civil rights movement. The interest in controlling the black mind continues right to this very day. Today, the mind control is focused on keeping the momentum of black self-destruction going. How do we recognize mind control in the black population of America today? The most obvious way in which mind control is exhibited is in the way that we are actively engaged in every manifestation of self-hatred. It is interesting to observe that during slavery, slave masters could not get blacks to reproduce fast enough. However, ever since the end of slavery, America has had an extraordinary interest in making sure that the black population of America does not increase. This campaign to reduce the black population of America has been totally successful. The growth in black population peaked almost 20 years ago. Today, we are witnessing the death of black America. There's a reason why black men and black women don't get along, and it's not just because of them. There's a reason why black people seem comfortable with the pandemic of drug and alcohol abuse in the black community. There's a reason why black people seem comfortable with the alarming rates of homicide in the black community. There's a reason why we're very comfortable with the high levels of obesity, heart disease, high blood pressure, HIV/AIDS, and a myriad of other health problems associated with the SAD, which is the standard American diet. We are dying in so many different ways prematurely. And we're dying also because we're not living lives that are really meaningful. To make your life meaningful, you have to be doing the work of the Lord. And that charity must begin at home, where we're working on solving black people's problems. That's the work of the Lord. Okay? To be working on trying to solve the problems of your people. Because God sees the suffering of the black man and black woman in America. We're steeped in confusion. We're at each other's throats. We can't get along. We don't know how to respect each other. This is not by accident. This is by design. And we have to turn this around. There's a reason why black people see education as only a tool to get a job or a career and not as a tool to advance the liberation of their own people. Most of our black politicians, they just seek a cushy job where they are able to solve their own personal economic problems, but they're not really fighting for the advancement of their people. In fact, it's very interesting to note that in many of the cities where you have an abundance of black politicians, you really don't see any real inspired leadership coming from that political class to try to help black people solve their problems. In fact, we don't see much leadership of any kind because the unholy bargain we made after the civil rights movement was that we want to integrate with white America. And we will pay our way in by divesting of any idea of our liberation of our people, and just purchasing consumer items, trying to say that we have parity with white people because we can buy what they have. That was a boon for the white economy. We used to have semblances of a parallel economy in the black community. All that's over with. And now it has to be reconstructed, because you can no longer rely on the fact that you're going to be able to get a job. Believe me, hard times are coming to America. There's all kinds of things happening that you may not be aware of. But anyway, anybody who tells you to depend on another people is a people that are people that want to see you in a bad situation. The Honorable Marcus Garvey taught us, any leadership that teaches you to depend on another people is a leadership that will enslave you. It's very important. We are enslaved in so many ways, believing that other people have this humanity to take care of us once we complain to them. Most people groups are self-interested. They want to take care of themselves. Jews want to look out for the interests of their people. And the same applies to everybody else. Italians want to look out for their people. Whites want to look out for their people. However people identify, it's natural for them to want to take care of the interests of their own people first. We as blacks are suffering because we don't have that basic understanding. We know that that is correct, but we want to be loved. We're soft. We want to be liked. We want to be accepted. And we complain when other people don't accept us, which makes us look like fools. Because if you want to be accepted, you must first accept yourself. We have to learn to accept ourselves. We keep running from pillar to post to all these different people trying to show our wonderful and good side, but we don't show that to ourselves. And we've let them impose on us a culture that's so negative that we're terrified of each other. We can't even communicate with each other in respectful ways. We turn our communities into ghettos. We harass people. We disrespect each other. And all this is right in step with white supremacy. That's why when I hear blacks complain about white supremacy, I scratch my head, because we are the most complicit in keeping the white supremacy scheme going. Whites don't even have to be involved in white supremacy for it to be successful today. So much has been invested into indoctrinating the black mind to operate against its own interests that this is the results. That's why when you hear people talk about the mind liberation of black people, they're not wrong. Because anytime a people cannot operate in their own interests, they are slaves. Black people are not operating in their own interests. Our communities and our families and our nation wouldn't look the way it looks if we were able to operate in our own interests. Nobody would want to see the level of homelessness. Nobody would want to see the level of child abuse. Nobody would want to see the level of the homosexualization of our children. Nobody would want to see the lack of respect for education. Nobody would want to see the lack of economic advancement and the failure of the group to be able to do group functions so they can have some group dignity and power. Nobody would want to see that. Nope, you can't tell me black people are operating in their own interests. What you can tell me is that they're trying to escape their responsibilities to their history. What you can tell me is that they're trying to escape blackness. And you can't really blame them, because what they have turned blackness into is not something to be proud of. But I want to focus on the reason why we no longer speak of liberation today is because it involves the hard work of freeing our minds from the bondage of negative indoctrination. We have been indoctrinated into fear, despair, and self-hatred. What has been the tool that has been proven to be so successful in the destruction of Black America? Very simply, propaganda. Everywhere in America, you can find nothing but negative propaganda. You watch this American movie industry. Some of these movies are written and even, financed by blacks. It's always about drugs and failure and destroyed family life and just ways in which we betray each other. So black culture is portrayed as a culture of betrayal. Black men don't want black women. Black women don't want black men. This is the trash that you see all throughout American media. The same thing with the music. Everybody wants respect for their people, but they don't mind if our children get on records and call each other niggers and all kinds of disrespectful words and talk about how we abuse each other and have predatory behavior on our women and they have predatory behavior on us. Nobody complains about that, not even us as a people. So we have to wake up. We have to wake up. And we got to remember something. Nobody really feels sorry for blacks. Nobody feels sorry if we go the way of the dinosaur. Nobody feels sorry if we go the way of the American Indian in this country. Genocide is on the table. Okay? Black people, this is our country. And it's a wonderful country in some ways. But we have to remember, we were never brought here to experience the blessings of liberty. We were brought here to be a slave labor force. And even though our role has evolved in this country, there's still that energy that never disappeared. There's still that racism that never disappeared. That desire to believe that other people are inferior to you has never disappeared. And they want us to continue to play that role. But we can't continue to be the buffoons and the clowns and the joke of America. It's time for us to stand up as proud black men and women and begin to study our history and teach our children the truth. If the black man won't take care of himself, then nobody will. If the black man and black women won't respect themselves, then the race is over. And this is why you see so many of our brothers and sisters trying to escape to Africa and escape to different places around the world, because this culture of black America absolutely sucks. And you can try to guest in somebody else's culture, but you'll never get the respect of building your own culture and learning to love yourself and working on building what God gave you. That's how people get respect. You can't escape into somebody else's culture and demand that they treat you like they treat themselves, even if they want to. Respect is something that must be earned. It's not going to just be given to you just because you decide to marry outside the race. So we are in this struggle whether we like it or not. We have to commit ourselves to the liberation of our minds. This is very, very important for you, for us. When blacks complain today about white supremacy, people say, hey, nothing is holding them back. They're free to make progress if they want. They know that we are mentally enslaved. And this is why it was the great Dr. Martin Luther King who said the following.
Nobody else can do this for us. No document can do this for us. No Lincolnian Emancipation Proclamation can do this for us. No Kennedysonian or Johnsonian Civil Rights Bill can do this for us. If the Negro is to be free, he must move down into the inner resources of his own soul and sign with the pen and ink of self-assertive manhood his own Emancipation Proclamation.
Nobody can do this for us. We have to remember what Dr. Martin Luther King said. We must be responsible for the liberation of our own minds. The good news is that we don't have to continue to play this game and be a stupid people. The winds of change are in America, coming to America. It's everywhere. It's time for us to change if we plan on surviving. Don't put all that faith in that white folks got it together, because in a lot of ways in this country, they are falling apart. We've seen how all these drugs were dumped in our community. Now other communities are having problems with their children taking drugs. So let's wake up. Let's wake up. It was okay when they said, put the drugs in the black community, overwhelm us with drugs and dope. We done had the crack epidemic. We done had the heroin epidemic. All this was designed to get us to destroy ourselves. The conditions were created for us to be in despair. And we only despaired because we, instead of putting our faith in the Most High and working together and putting our faith in each other, we put our faith in another people to solve our problems. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. And now what's left of black America is strong enough to do some great things. We can hit the brakes. We can hit the brakes. I always say that self-destruction is on cruise control for black America and America, but we can hit the brakes on it and go in a whole different direction. And that direction, as you know, I advocate is African Renaissance time. Let's accept what we really are as African people. There's a whole continent of opportunity for us to create trade and to build connections so that we can become wealthy. We're locked out of our own economics in our own community. Everything is owned by foreigners. We let that happen. And if we're not going to come together and work together to build that and take that back, store by store, brick by brick, opportunity by opportunity, then some of us have to start considering putting our resources together and bringing our business over to another continent. And we should be going, if we're going to go like that, we need to go like groups. But if we're going to stay here and build something, then we have to learn that we have been the victims of propaganda and that our minds are immersed in negative culture given to us by people who want us to destroy ourselves, and we have to do something about it. We can't keep denying. And I don't get mad because black people have a lot of problems with self-hatred. I know a big investment was made to put us in that condition. But there is a God, and God is just. And God is saying that those who want to save their situation, they can do that. But you got to live a righteous life, and you got to pick up the banner of race self-respect, racial self-respect. I don't care if you're a Muslim, you still have to function to improve the condition of your race. I don't care if you're a Jew, you have to do the same thing. I don't care if you're a Christian. You got to stop being so naive. It ain't no kumbaya and everybody's together. White Christians are not knocking themselves out to make sure that blacks have the same economic advantages and have the same sophistication in worldly matters of how to take care of business. Nobody does that for us. So you can share their religion, but you're not going to share the same outcome because they don't care about you like that. They take care of their own people. That's the nature of life. We don't have to complain about it. That is enough of us to do the right thing by each other. So once again, I'm going to leave it there. But once again, please like and subscribe. This is Brother 𝗧C Blackman. Don't make me a voice crying in the wilderness. Like and subscribe. And let's start to think about ways we can come together to solve our problems as African people in this day and time. Because there still is a struggle, a major struggle. Because if we don't change, like I said, black people in America are going the way of the dinosaur. And only those people who have the resources to get on a plane and go somewhere else are going to have a future because it's ugly. It's very ugly. I asked a brother, why are you going to Africa right now? And I've been to many countries in Africa, by the way. But he said to me that what has happened to our people in America is so saddening that I have to go somewhere where there's more hope. And a lot of black people feel that way. Anyway, please like and subscribe. This is the African Renaissance Time channel. Thank you for listening.